My name's Adrian O'Brien, the Director of Marketing for Midnight Sun Mining. And let's face it, we have 10 minutes. This is going to be nice and short and sweet and fast. Not going to be able to go into a lot of detail. So what I'm going to do is give you what I like to call the greatest hits collection for Midnight Sun. And hopefully, if you guys have some interest, pop by the booth after. We're number 235. And we'll give you the full story behind this amazing project and what it is that we're doing. So right off the bat, where is Midnight Sun? We're working in Zambia. So this is a Zambian copper project. And not only are we in Zambia, we're in the heart of something called the Domes region of the Zambia-Congo Copper Belt. So this is one of the top copper producing regions in the world. And this is the only region in the world where pretty well every deposit is 1 billion tons. So this is an absolutely phenomenal spot to be working, and Zambia is a fantastic country to be working in. When you look at our neighbors, who are we surrounded by? First Quantum, VRIC, Ivanhoe, a brand new company called Cobalt, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in a second, Anglo American. I mean, this is a who's who of the top copper producers in the world, and we're completely surrounded. If you could drop a nice, neat net around the area known as the Domes region, you would literally capture every one of those companies and billion-ton copper deposits. One of those is Kamoa-Kakula, which is Ivanhoe's top project, sits right above us. It's 585 million tons at 2.9% copper. This is an extraordinary part of the world to be working. Our project, 506 square kilometers. So we're not talking about a little postage stamp property here. This is a massive, massive project split up into 4 pieces that are each an individual, unique opportunity for a big discovery. And we have some great targets, in particular this one called Dumbwa that I'm going to tell you about in a second. And this is a geological environment that is just totally conducive to massive billion-ton copper deposits. So do I need to tell you why copper? Probably not at this point, but I will anyways. Electrification is coming. You are going to see demand for copper over the next decade that we have never seen in our lives. There's probably multi-decades coming that are going to be extraordinary. Copper is going to be the most in-demand metal. Electrification is pushing copper to new highs. So both in terms of market demand and market pricing, and a lack of new copper deposits coming on stream, and particularly new copper deposits coming on stream that don't need to be built. We don't need a capex. We don't need to build a mine. There's mines around us that can take that ore and put it in production right away. So Zambia, 75 years, or 75% of their export earnings are copper. Over 100 years as a mining powerhouse. They have a proper democratically elected government, a proper mining act in place. It's a fantastic place to be working. So we're very lucky to be there. And really, it's evidenced by these individuals, as I mentioned before, First Quantum, Barrick, Anglo American, Rio Tinto, Cobalt. Everybody, it's the who's who of major copper producers. And just to touch before I go a whole lot further on who Cobalt is, if you haven't heard about them yet, you're going to be hearing a lot about them over the next little while in the coming years. Cobalt's a brand new company. They're private. They're an AI mining company, and they're backed by Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, Jack Ma. I mean, it's the who's who of the investment world, and they're coming to Zambia, and they're setting up shop. So it's nice to see them focused on an area like this. This is a quick snapshot of the Zambia-Congo Copper Belt. So off to the right-hand side of this graphic, you've got the traditional Zambian-Congo Copper Belt. It runs kind of northwest-southeast. And then to the west, you've got this area called the Domes region. This is the area we're working. So if you look, you can see First Quantum's Kansanshi mine on the right-hand side. That's 1 billion tons at 0.66% copper. That's their number 1 producer, and that is the top African copper producer. Just over to the west, you can see Barrick's Lumwana mine. It's 960 million tons at 0.55% copper. That's the center of Barrick's new move towards becoming a major copper producer. Just to the west of that, First Quantum Sentinel mine. That's 1 billion tons, a little over 1 billion tons at 0.51% copper. Then to the north, we have Ivanhoe's Kamoa-Kakula, 585 at 2.9%, and China Molybdenum's Tenke deposit, which was sold a couple of years ago for around $4 billion. Worth pointing out that Kamoa, Kakula, and Tenke are inside the DRC. They are not in Zambia where we are. That's a whole other ball of wax in terms of jurisdictions to be working, and we're perfectly happy where we are in Zambia. So the big differentiator, as I mentioned at the top of this presentation, as far as Zambia goes, and the Domes region in particular, these deposits are billions of tons, not millions of tons. Typical porphyry deposit's going to be in the millions of tons range. Most of the big ones and most of the easy ones have already been found. There's not a lot of new discoveries coming on, and the area where we're working are these very, very large billion-ton SEDEX deposits. So they tend to be shallower, they tend to be thinner, and you build your tonnage on strike. So they're a different model entirely, but they're very big, they're open pit, and they're easy to move forward. So let's look at the grade. If you're working in the Domes region, you're going to be averaging between Lumwana and Sentinel and Kansanshi, let's call it 0.59%, give or take. If you look below, this is a little bit of a snapshot of what Midnight Sun has found so far. So we've done a lot of geophysics, a lot of geochemistry, a lot of soil sampling, and work on our property to get ready to do sort of aggressive systematic drilling. These are a mixture of sulfide and oxide copper intercepts, but we've got 11.5 meters of 5.7%, 21 meters of 3.2, 6.4 of 5. I could read through the whole list. But what I really want to point out is that if you look at the right-hand side of that column, it lists out our property names and our locations. And as I'll show you on some maps here in a second, those are spread out across our entire 500 square kilometer property package. This is not localized on one target. This is 4 separate targets spread out over 500 kilometers, and there's high-grade copper in every location we've worked. So here's moving in here. Let's give you a little better look. There's First Quantum Sentinel Mine. There's Lumwana. There's Kansanshi. And everything you see there with that blue outline is Midnight Sun. So 500 square kilometers, broken up into 4 pieces, 4 targets, and that is 4 unique opportunities for a multi-generational billion-ton copper deposit. It's not one shot. There's 4 separate ones built into this property package. The other thing I want to point out is that each of their big deposits and those big mines are centered on one of these geological domes. There are multiple geological domes underneath the Midnight Sun property, which is why we have 4 separate systems that we're working on. So here's the targets. We have Dumbwa down to the southeast. We have Kaziba up to the northwest. We have Mitu just down on the southwest corner, and then we have something called Crunch. And then we have something at the very end I'm going to talk about, which is copper oxide opportunity on this property. So let's look at Dumbwa. Tier 1 exploration target. Some of the top geologists in the world have looked at this, and they have labeled this a top tier exploration target. We have a soil anomaly that's 20 kilometers long that gets up to 0.73% copper. Going back a couple slides, the average grade at the mines in the area was 0.59%. Typically, you see kind of raised anomalous copper in soil when you're soil sampling. We're getting ore grade on a 20 kilometer long soil anomaly. There was also a discovery made a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, right off the tip of the property boundary and right off the tip of that soil anomaly that was made by a major, and it was very significant. So our first priority is to move Dumbwa forward, and we're working super hard on that as we speak. Then we have Kaziba. 2 first discoveries that we made, 11.5 meters of 5.7 and 21 meters of 3.26. That's typically what you're going to see with these SEDEX deposits. You're not going to see 100-meter porphyry intercepts. You're going to see 10 to 15-meter intercepts of those kind of grades. Mitu, similar type of stuff. We found some really interesting mineralization there that gives you a good idea of the fact that this is a unique system. We found nickel and gold, not just copper and cobalt like we found on most of the property. Gives us proof of concept that that is a separate system. I'm going to zip ahead to this. They've got 1 minute left in my greatest hits package for you. And I want to talk about this oxide copper opportunity. Across our entire project, there's typically a layer of overburden. And we have oxide copper in pretty much across the entire project in different targets all across this thing. And it ranges in grade, let's say from 0.2 up to 0.6, even maybe a little bit higher grade than that. This is material that's at surface. Now, you're not going to go out and build an oxide copper plant on the Midnight Sun property and start a mine to mine oxide copper. But if there was a major in the area that had a use for oxide copper, that creates one hell of a business opportunity for Midnight Sun beyond the systems that we're out there drilling looking for a billion-ton copper deposit. So at the Kansanshi mine, they have built what would arguably be the top copper smelter in the world. definitely one of the most effective and one of the most advanced. But they have a byproduct, and their byproduct is sulfuric acid. So they're producing about 1 million tons a year right now of sulfuric acid, and they have to treat that or they have to truck it off the property and have to find a way to do that. So what they've been doing for the last however many years that the mine's been in operation, 10, 20 years, they leach oxide copper with their sulfuric acid, and it's a super smart strategy. Not only does it get rid of their sulfuric acid, they've opened up a second revenue stream. They take that copper oxide, they leach it, they take the concentrate, they electrowin it, create a plate, they sell the plate, separate revenue stream, super, super smart. But the problem they have at Kansanshi right now is that they are running out. Sometime in 2024, they're going to be completely out of copper oxides, and they need a new source. Midnight Sun is sitting on a very large source of copper oxides. So we have a goal in mind right now. We're planning a strategy out that will allow us to get drilling this year. We can see multiple areas where we can ring fence 10 or 15 million tons of copper oxides at 0.5%, which is the ultimate 0.3, 0.5. What we're going to do is go out and we're going to drill off a 50 million ton resource, maybe a bigger than 50 million ton resource. We're going to aim for 50 million tons. That would satisfy Kansanshi for the next 10 years. That would also create a revenue situation for Midnight Sun that could be anywhere from 15 to 25 million bucks a year for the next 10 years. That's a heck of a way to self-finance. So we're going to move that ahead, and we're going to chase the oxide copper target for the next little while and really go after this. So this is another, like, I maybe call it a sweetener on top of 4 big targets for a 1 billion ton copper deposit. And that is pretty much the Midnight Sun story. If there's anything I want you guys to walk away with today, it's the fact that this is one of the top jurisdictions in the world. It's one of the only places you're going to find a 1 billion ton copper deposit. All of the copper deposits in the area are 1 billion tons. Top copper producers in the world are all located in this region. They surround us. We have multiple targets. We've got the grade. Now we're just going to move it ahead. And the key thing I want you to leave with is that timing is everything. Okay, it does not matter what metal you're chasing, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, nickel. I don't care what it is. You have to have your timing right. We're coming into a copper market like we have never seen. There's going to be demand like we have never seen. There are a lack of copper deposits coming on stream. There's a lack of new copper deposits being found, and the ones that are being found are deep and difficult to get at. This is the area where we need to be working, and copper deposits are what the world needs right now. Thank you very much.